2018. As I told you last year, public speaking, also known as rhetoric, has a very long history at this school. This contest was founded by the Reverend Samuel Damon, a Punahou trustee. He had a son, Willie, who won the rhetoric competition when he was an undergraduate here at Punahou. Unfortunately, young Willie died of typhoid fever just 5 years after graduating from Punahou. And his father donated some money to the school for a rhetoric competition in his son's memory. Of course, the contest has gone through lots and lots of changes over 141 years. In the beginning, for example, speakers didn't write their own speeches. Instead, they memorized pieces from literature and plays and poetry and would recite them to the audience. Sometimes they even had musical accompaniment during the recitation. However, in 1921, the contest took the form it has today, with the speakers writing their own pieces and no pianos or violins playing up there in the background. The 8 contestants seated up on stage have a lot of history to live up to, but I'm confident of their speaking ability because each one is already a winner. Just by getting into the finals, these 8 people rank as the top 2% of the graduating speakers in your class. I'd like to read their names. Starting from your left, we have Elias Horn. Emma McDonald. Tahiti Thompson. Logan Yogi. Cable Cronin. Tildy Oyster. Kiara Reeves. And Ashley O. Now we have 9 judges scattered throughout the hall this morning, including a member from the Academy Speech and Debate team. Here are the speech guidelines the judges will be following. The speech topic must be a problem, opinion, or concern with serious intent or goal. Humor may be used to emphasize the point or points, but the speech shall not be a stand-up comedy routine. There shall be no reading of prepared papers, nor shall there be costumes or props. Within those guidelines, each judge will be choosing his or her top 3 speakers. The contest is decided on points, and when a judge awards a first place, that's worth 16 points, a second place is worth 11, and a third place is worth 7 points. When the contest is over, we'll pause for a few moments, probably take 5 or 6, while Mrs. Nakata and I add up all the points, and then I will announce the bronze, silver, and gold medal winners, and we will give them their laser-cut trophies, which you see sitting over there, made in the Makery by Mr. Karen Lubman. The top 3 winners will also get a monetary prize on the Punahou accounts, $50, $35, or $25. So, with no further ado, let's get started with our first speaker, Elias Moy. Elias' speech is entitled, Small Foot Fail Disorder.
So imagine we lived in a world where your feet were no longer just devices for finding Legos in the dark, but the key to your very success. The bigger your feet, the bigger your success. But what if you have small feet? Well, you'd have a condition called small foot fail disorder. And if you don't want to fail, you have to make your feet grow. Can you make your feet grow? If your parents tell you to try harder, does that make your feet grow? If your friends surpass you, does that make your feet grow? If everyone's shouting, why are you so lazy? Why don't you care? You need to focus. And I'm trying, but I can't focus. Because I have ADHD, and I can't pay attention any more than you can make your feet grow. Now, what is ADHD anyway? Well, the American Psychiatric Association says ADHD is a condition that makes it harder for your brain's neurotransmitters to communicate. They say it affects about 7% of all students. And another thing, I Googled hyperactivity, and you know what the first thing that came up was? ADHD. This just proves that not even Google knows the difference between ADHD and ABCDEFG, because you can have ADHD and not be hyper at all. There's a second, less commonly known, inattentive type that's characterized by wandering off task, lacking persistence, and having trouble staying focused and organized. That kind of sounds like everybody in the room, but it's not. You may forget your homework, but I turn in completely wrong assignments. You may leave your PE clothes in the locker room, but I've come home with someone else's PE clothes. The inattentiveness caused by ADHD is persistent, but to everyone, even the person themselves, it just seems like laziness. When I was undiagnosed, I'd fail and fail and fail, and everyone thought I was stupid, including myself. Now, that's just in academics. The National Library of Medicine says 50 to 60% of people with ADHD suffer from social awkwardness. So imagine freezing up, talking to that person you have a crush on. That's how it is for me when I talk to everyone. Yay. It also causes unpredictably strong emotions. The American Association of Anxiety and Depression says people with ADHD are more likely to become depressed. Lastly, people with ADHD sometimes blurt out whatever's on their mind, like how this is getting kind of boring and I don't actually really want to be here and I really want a churro. This is called impulsivity. Now, that all sounds pretty bad, but as soon as I started seeing a professional therapist, as soon as I was diagnosed, as soon as people started learning about my ADHD, they stopped fighting me and started helping me. So, getting back to foot size, you can all help easily by putting yourself in my shoes. I may not be able to ace tests, but I can be creative, like Will Smith, who has ADHD. I can work hard, like Michael Phelps, who has ADHD. I can be a leader, like Bill Gates, who has ADHD. I can. Because you understand. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Emma McDonald. Emma's speech is entitled, Housing, a Reward or a Right?
15,000. In 1 year, there are 15,000 men, women, and children living in Hawaii with no home. That's 3 times the population of our school. This leaves us with the highest percentage of homeless people in the entire country. We are number 1, and that is not good. My father graduated from Punahou in 1980 when seeing homeless people on the streets was an uncommon sight. Since then, homelessness has become an epidemic. Our generation can be the ones to solve the largest social problem of our time. We can end homelessness, and here's how. We need more supply of truly affordable housing. The housing developers and government have not been able to keep up as our population has increased. Estimates show that we need more than 20,000 new homes in the next 10 years. As people move into these new homes, more space will become available for the homeless. How do we build that many new homes? Everyone has to work together. The city, state, and federal governments, along with local developers and local neighborhoods. We're all in this together, and we can't let politics divide us. Every community in the state has to welcome homeless people. There are many people in Hawaii that are NIMBY, which means not in my backyard. These are people that want to end homelessness, but don't want homeless people as their neighbors. We can't expect our government to help solve this major issue if we don't allow our neighborhoods to be part of the solution. Every community in the state, some people say that more affordable housing will just draw more people to our beautiful state of Hawaii. We clearly need to have some sort of residency requirements for affordable housing. More affordable housing will make the biggest impact, but it is not only a housing issue. Many people that have lacked adequate housing for long periods of time also have mental health and substance abuse issues. We need to get these people the help and support they need and not force them into situations that they reject. Would you move into a house if you couldn't see your friends, take care of your pets, and eat and drink what you want? No. You would stay on the streets. So let's help get these people the help and support they need so that they can thrive. Police are our friends, but they are forced to make homeless people criminals when the proper medical and housing services are not in place. So what if people do just keep drinking, doing drugs, and not taking their medication? Well, these things will significantly reduce once people have a roof over their head and a community of support. Because a caring community beats an artificial high any day. Finally, we can end homelessness if we make it a personal and political priority. We spend a lot of time avoiding the issue, blaming other people for the problem, turning our heads, looking away, not getting things done. There are many important issues in our state: education, alternative energy, rising oceans, climate change, nuclear missile warnings, or false alerts, and of course, the rail. If we focus our time and energy on ending homelessness for the 15,000 people that are homeless every year, including 7,500 kids, then we can do it. I recently had the opportunity to visit a local homeless shelter. There, I met tons of kids, just like you and me. Some were excellent athletes, some excelled in school, and some were creating beautiful art. There's only one difference between us and them. We have opportunity and a network of support that they often do not. So let's use our privilege to help put roofs over the heads of these people. Let's create the Aloha State that we all want to see. Let's do it, because where there's a will, there's a way. Thank you.
Thank you, Emma. Our third speaker is Tahei Thompson. Tahei's speech is entitled, "Hip Hop is a Misunderstood Art Form."
When I was little, I always believed that hip-hop had no artistic value. I was always under the impression that the whole genre was too explicit, had no real meaning, or anything significant to say. It wasn't until middle school that I began to see the true face of hip-hop culture. It started off when my friends began to listen to rap and hip-hop music. Then before I knew it, hip-hop began to grow a new skin. The lyricism, the beats, and the artistic vibes buried underneath began to make sense. I was amazed by how you could feel everything coming from the artist, such as their raw emotions, opinions, thoughts, and experiences. What completed it was the amount of passion rushing through the words, which made it so unique. Hip-hop allows artists to be heard and share their side of the story. Hip-hop is being created through pure, passionate human expression, and it is so much more than lyrics talking about drugs and violence. Hip-hop is a lifestyle. It's a culture taken from the streets. It is a true art form that is yet very misunderstood and doesn't receive the respect it deserves. We can almost all agree that most genres of music talk about love. Hip-hop, on the other hand, is special in the sense that deep things can be communicated through it. For example, the struggles and the pain that is constantly conflicted in African American and other minority communities. The socially oppressive and unequal lives these people have to fight against every day, from not being given proper opportunities, facilities, and education. This is all communicated through rap and hip-hop. Barack Obama once said, "The thing about hip-hop today is it's smart, it's insightful. The way they can communicate a complex message in a very short space is remarkable." Hip-hop is the new modern platform for social awareness, resulting in the youth of our country not only to be inspired, but to be inspirers. Hip-hop has the aspect of communicating stories and ideas, communicating to the fans, and also communicating with other artists. Artists like to collaborate because bigger ideas can be generated and their individual perspectives grow. As individuals, we are sometimes blocked by our own opinions and thoughts, that we tend to stay in our own minds and don't consider somebody else's perspective. In 1986, 5 black teens from the rap group NWA made history for being the first rap group to address racial politics, police violence, and the struggles of living in Compton. Their music and their story is a solid example of how hip-hop is a way of expression. Straight Outta Compton was one of their albums that supported the hashtag Black Lives Matter movement. One of their songs on the album is called F the Police. If you look past the aggressive song title, we could truly see how NWA was using rap to share a story, to share that they have been attacked enough. This song was an inspiration to many other black communities who were experiencing these same exact problems. Ice Cube, the lyricist of the group, says our art is a reflection of our reality. Straight Outta Compton was all about communicating one message, that Black Lives Matter. In some American communities, rap is represented as offensive, misogynistic, and aggressive with lots of profanity. Bill O'Reilly is a solid example of those who slam the art of hip-hop with only a thin layer of understanding it. Quote, "The rap industry often glorifies depraved behavior, and that sinks into the minds of some young people," end quote. Senator Bernie Sanders responded to O'Reilly saying, "You can't argue that hip-hop rots the moral characters of kids or rots their brains and still see middle-class white kids going to school listening to hip-hop, going on to become healthy adults listening to hip-hop. You have to ask yourself, what are these black kids missing? What are we not giving them by way of services, by way of school? What are we not giving their parents by way of equal pay?" Hip-hop attacks these exact statements and questions, while the talking heads of the news channels avoid such thing, afraid they might lose their viewers due to this controversial problem. The culture of rap and hip-hop has become such a big influence in our present society. It has redefined cultural norms, such as the lifestyle we might live, the clothes we might wear, and our language. It is an art that can inspire all of us to become critical of the world, ourselves, and others. It may have an intimidating image, but it tells the most diverse and important stories. It has taught me to not be afraid to share my story and to think beyond what I believe are my limitations. Hip-hop is a misunderstood art form that endures too many stereotypes and lack of respect. But may the art of this revolutionary culture rise. Thank you.
Thank you, Damon. Our next speaker is Logan Yogi. Logan's speech is entitled "The Workforce of Tomorrow."
Education is the most important weapon in which we can use to change the world. This quote by Nelson Mandela teaches us that education is the most important part of any society. But if education is so important to us, then why haven't we changed this system in the last 100 years? Even though society and the way students learn has evolved over time, there's been a stagnant change in education. As students, we work hard every single day to do our best in school, only to realize that we're working in a broken education system that needs to be fixed. Students, teachers, and educators of the world, I'm here today to tell you that we need to put more efforts into revolutionizing our education system in order to benefit our future workforce. We need to put more efforts into the system to ensure that there isn't a lack of diversity in gifted education, that we change our ideas of how students learn, and that we prepare them for college and career success. First of all, there's a lack of diversity in gifted education. Gifted education is a nationwide program that separates the more gifted students from the regular students. This is an extremely discriminatory way of thinking that can be harmful to many students' self-esteem. Author Bell Wallace states that a gifted education is a system-wide justification of unequal treatment to those who do not meet the school standard for admission into the program. The worst part about these programs is that they're promoted as early as elementary school. The fact that these schools are separating kids into categories of intelligence is just unjust and unfair. How would you feel if you were deemed regular rather than gifted, talented, or valued? I believe every child is as smart and as talented as any other. And the way to get kids to believe this is by eliminating the gifted and talented labels forever. Also, our ideas of learning need to be changed. Many people believe that some students just naturally excel in some subjects while others don't. This statement is false and needs to be re-examined. How many of you have heard, it's okay if you're not a math person, math just comes easier to some people? This statement is wrong, derogatory, and goes against the growth mindset mentality. Having a growth mindset is the idea that if you believe your abilities can develop through hard work and dedication, you can succeed in anything. Teachers seem to be well aware of these programs and mindsets, but many have failed to implement them into their classroom strategies. By implementing more programs and mindsets like these, we will be able to craft an education system that is much more effective in boosting student achievement. Finally, a lot of people believe that we don't need to improve the education system because graduation rates are going up. But many of these students aren't prepared for what comes next. Research shows that many students who graduate often fall far behind in college. Why is this? This is because these students aren't academically prepared for college when they graduate high school. The National Assessment for Educational Progress states that more than 60% of all graduating seniors haven't mastered reading and math and are poorly equipped for college and real-world life. On top of all of this, these students aren't even ready to be successful in the workplace. Along with science and math, schools need to teach students skills like how to effectively communicate, problem solve, and collaborate with others. Preparing students to be successful in college and careers should be a top priority for our schools today. In conclusion, we need to focus more time and effort in order to improve our education system to benefit our workforce of tomorrow. We need to ensure that there isn't a lack of diversity in gifted education, that we change our ideas of how students learn, and that we prepare them for college and career success. Our country has vanquished nations, explored the corners of the earth, and even conquered the vast reaches of space. But yet we haven't found the time to improve and revolutionize our education system in order to prepare our generation for future success. So I hope that you'll stand with me on the belief that a new, revolutionized education system is necessary in order to benefit the incredible, intelligent, innovative workforce of tomorrow.
Thank you, Damon. Our next speaker is Damon. Cable's speech is entitled Big Gain, Big Win, Moral Loss.
It makes me sick, trapping an innocent animal after abducting them from their family. They are stripped of their natural instincts with no way to save themselves and no purpose left in their life. Sold off like an object. Then shot only a few times so they don't look too ugly for that perfect Instagram picture. They suffer a long, painful death just to have many of their own kind continue in this vicious cycle. Sport and trophy hunting is immoral, disturbing, and destructive, which is why I believe it should become illegal. Sport hunting endangers many animals and can lead them to extinction, like the African black rhino, who were hunted for their skin and horns and were declared extinct in late 2011. Many animals were seen as prized possessions and were rare and hard to kill, such as the quagga, who were hunted into extinction in the early 20th century. As reported by CNN journalist and activist against sport hunting Jeffrey Flocken, quote, "Hunters are not like natural predators. They target the largest specimens, those with the biggest tusks, manes, antlers, and horns," end quote. As targeted species become depleted in many of the areas where canned hunts occur, many ecosystems are failing, with these crucial contributors being killed off. Not only is sport hunting depleting animal populations, but is also morally wrong. No creature should ever have to die just for sport, and many of these hunted animals suffer long and painful deaths. As journalist Stephen Messenger said, quote, Given the advantage of our heightened intellect and ability to kill with astonishing skill and efficiency, it is likely that empathy is instilled within us as a natural preventative to ensure that we don't do so needlessly, end quote. Many of the animals that are trophy hunted were raised in the wild to live long lives, but those lives were cut short because of sport hunting. Truthfully, it is sickening to find joy in ending others' lives. It is in our nature to hunt, but there is nothing natural about killing for fun. It is truly wrong. Sport hunting is related to conservation. The money that many people pay to hunt these animals go back into the rural communities where these can hunts occur, right? Actually, only about 3% of the money made by can hunts go back into the rural communities, while the rest goes to the anonymous sellers of the animals, which enters the money back into this vicious cycle of killing. A Sinovate E-Nation poll taken in 2011 found that of those responded to its survey, 70% of Americans would pay to view lions on an African safari, while only 6% would pay to hunt them. Killing animals does not boost the economy and decreases the number of many large species. By banning the hunting of many endangered animals, many species have come out of endangerment. If we truly want to help our planet, we must think with much stronger morals and with kindness. When a species' greatest value is as a dead trophy, its days will inevitably be numbered. With its antlers above a fireplace, its only achievement. We must put an end to trophy hunting and abolish this pathetic pseudo-sport. We must fight for other animals that deserve the same rights as us. All in all, it comes down to who is truly for life on our planet Earth. Thank you.
Thank you, Damon. Our next speaker is Tildy Oyster. Tildy's speech is entitled, F is for Feminism. Feminism is for everyone.
All feminists hate men. They're not for equality. All they do is scream oppression. When hearing the word feminist, a loud, radical, male-hating woman comes to mind for most, and probably some of you. You imagine someone who claims they believe in uplift, but subsequently bashes another group of people for something out of their own control. For example, their race, gender, or sexuality. This term, feminism, has been painted with a negative connotation that the word's true definition doesn't match. Feminism, by definition, is the theory of social, political, and economic equality of the sexes. Already, this has nothing to do with the downfall of men, because the whole movement is centered around uplift. I myself have seen women viciously discriminate against men and manage to call themselves feminists. In fact, they are misandrists, meaning that they believe in the superiority of women. These misandrists are the loud minority of, as they claim to be, feminists, and they are creating an incorrect picture and strong stereotype. Feminists can be quiet or outgoing because feminism has no race, personality type, socioeconomic status, sexuality, or political stance. It's simply the belief in equality. Well, if feminists are for fairness, then why does the word have femme in it? Feminism was officially created in the late 20th century, although there were still many inequalities and activists before then. The root refers to women because, at this time, women wanted to raise up their own gender to where men were when the gap was very raw and clear. Now, issues today are rather nuanced and detailed because we have started to focus on inequalities on both ends. Our world today is led by a patriarchal society, creating norms for everyone. These expectations force you into a box and make you fit those standards, or else you'll be deemed different. Gender roles play into patriarchy by making women who are strong and men who are sensitive unusual or weird. Gender roles only bring more attention back to the labels and separation of people, but we need to stop classifying in these ways because people are simply people. Just as we want to get rid of these malicious stereotypes about gender, we want to rid feminism of inaccurate claims.
Like any other opinion-based group, there is no gender that defines it because it's simply a point of view. Many choose not to identify as feminists because they have the wrong definition of what feminist really means. Chances are, if you support equality and believe no one here is superior to another, then congratulations, you are indeed a feminist. We are for fairness, equal rights, and empathy because this is what the world currently lacks and is what everyone in this room deserves. Gloria Steinem, a feminist, journalist, and social political activist from the 1970s said, quote, "The first problem for all of us, men and women, is not to learn, but to unlearn." End quote. We need to take back what has become usual and cultivate an empowering, supportive world for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Lily. Our next speaker is Kiara Reeves. The speech is entitled, "A Country of Open Arms."
No one puts their children in a boat unless water is safer than land. No one burns their palms under trains beneath carriages. No one wants to spend their days and nights in the stomach of a truck, feeding on newspapers unless miles traveled means something more than the journey. This poem, called Home is the Mouth of a Shark, by Warson Shire, truly captures the gut-wrenching life of immigrants worldwide. Humans are a nomadic species. We followed herds of antelope to gather food. We followed streams in search of water. We have the instincts to migrate to somewhere better if life gets too rough. The first Americans were immigrants, and they were celebrated. The world applauded them for finding better living conditions and new territory. Over the past few decades, the word immigrant has become a derogatory term. Why shouldn't it be celebrated? They have the courage, the bravery to hope for something better. They push the dangers away if there's a fraction of a chance that their life will be better than before. Children are facing life-threatening odds when their lives have just begun. Although there are actions in place to provide security for these individuals, we need to make sure that it stays this way. An alien is an unknown species that humans find repelling and harmful. This is what we compare immigrants to: illegal aliens. Illegal meaning they have overstayed their visas or don't have the correct papers to prove that they are a citizen. Are you really only an American when you have the right papers to prove it? Or when you've risked everything, given up everything, to lead a better life? DACA, or the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals Act, states that if you were under 31, came to America when you were 16 or below, and have paid a fee, you are eligible for protection from deportation. Our current president is trying to repeal DACA. He is wanting to separate families, to send children younger than you and I to war-ridden countries, just so we don't have to deal with them. We often refer to immigrants as dreamers. Why? Because many of them are eligible for the Development and Relief Education of Alien Minors Act, DREAM. This act applies to all teens and minors that have been or are currently enrolled in school, and it also provides protection from deportation. These young adults dream of being CEOs and MVPs, so why are we asking our future entrepreneurs and presidents to go back to where they came from? They came from hard work and drive and sacrifice. They came from gangs, but walked towards peace. They came from holding guns to holding pencils. These people are willing to take jobs no blue-collar worker would ever even consider, like laying concrete or picking strawberries. They are getting paid a third of the money for doing double the work. They are not taking our jobs. They are taking jobs no one wants to do and not getting credit for it. Our job market and economy are thriving because of these silent workers. It is because of these immigrants with hunched backs and blistered feet, and these dreamers who strive to earn a dime more than they did last week. Our country is built on the foundation that everyone is welcome. Should there be an exception because you came at the wrong point in history? No. Whether it be for religious, ethnic, or other backgrounds, we should be rejoicing in each other's colorful stories. Why is there a closed gate when in the past there have been open arms? You are an immigrant. I am an immigrant. There's no difference. We just need to learn to accept others like us that will one day live among us as equals. There are actions in place to provide these immigrants and dreamers somewhere to call home, but we need to make sure that it stays this way. As Warson Shire writes, "I want to go home, but home is the mouth of a shark. Home is the barrel of a gun. No one would leave home unless home chased you to the shore, unless home told you to quicken your legs and leave your clothes behind, crawl through deserts, wade through oceans, drown."
Thank you, John. Our final speaker this morning, Ashley O. Ashley's speech is entitled "The Horrors of the Meat Industry."
Neither squeals of hogs nor tears of visitors made any difference to them. One by one they hooked up the hogs, and one by one with a swift stroke they slit their throats. There was a long line of hogs, with squeals and lifeblood ebbing away together, until at last each started again and vanished, with a splash into a huge vat of boiling water. This quote is one of many in Uptown Sinclair's book, The Jungle, describing and exposing the horrors of the meat industry. Although this book was written in the 20th century, animals continue to be inhumanely tortured and slaughtered for the consumption of meat. This unethical treatment of animals found in the meat and dairy industry is absolutely mortifying and needs to end. Animals that need to be nurtured and cared for while they're young are taken away by the hands of greedy corporations wanting to make the most profit possible. For example, when a dairy cow is born, she is taken from her mother immediately. The main reason she does not stay is so she does not drink up her mother's milk and take the farmer's profit. But in order to give milk, a dairy cow must be artificially inseminated, because just like humans, a dairy cow will not produce milk if there isn't a child to feed. When the mothers are finally exhausted, they are sent to the slaughterhouse. The mother cows get their babies taken away, are milked 24/7 with harsh machines, fed with grain they cannot digest, and when they are finally exhausted, they are killed. Why is it that eating dogs and cats is horrible and cruel, but eating pigs, cows, and chickens are just fine? Don't get me wrong, eating dogs and cats is horrible, but why is it worse? Maybe it's because dogs and cats are like our family members. Seeing them tortured would deeply disturb all of us. Yet we turn a blind eye to the killing of pigs, cows, chickens, turkeys, lambs, sheep, goats, convincing ourselves that farm animals are inferior creatures to the ones we raise in our homes. We empathize too when we see a hunter standing next to its murdered lion or endangered rhino. We hear about the Yulin festival where thousands of dogs and cats are tortured and slaughtered, and we sign petitions to stop it. But most of us won't listen or read about the horrors of the meat industry because it's just too good. The cruel practice of raising animals for the meat and dairy industry is, without question, shocking and must cease immediately. Every year, 9 billion chickens, 113 million pigs, and 33 million cows are tortured and slaughtered for human consumption. All of this can stop if we just stop consuming as much meat as we do now. The cruel living conditions for the animals can stop. The injustice from the babies taken away from their mothers can end. The torture that the creatures go through in order to produce the most tender and quality meat possible needs to cease. Why do we continue to ignore the mass suffering and killing happening in the meat industry? How is it the one thing we can all agree we love are the ones being tortured on a daily basis? Can we still imagine ourselves as a natural link in a chain of life when there is nothing natural about the way we raise and eat our food? Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. Okay, the judges had a hard decision, but we've heard some very good speeches this morning. Let me review for you what you heard. Elias talked about learning challenges that he and other students can face. Emma spoke about housing and homelessness. Tahiti about hip-hop, often being a misunderstood art form. Logan spoke about the education system we need for the workforce for tomorrow. Cable told us about big game trophy hunting. Tildy about feminism. Kiara about immigration. And Ashley about the meat and dairy industry. Judges, as soon as you're finished, please bring your judging forms down here to me or to Mrs. Nakata. And students, it'll take a few minutes. Why don't you talk to the kids around you and see if you guys can predict who the top 3 will be. All right, the judges have made their decision. Taking the bronze, Tahiti Thompson. Taking the silver medal winner, Logan Yogi. And taking the gold, Elias Moy. Thank you to all the contestants and to the audience. You've been great. Assembly dismissed.